Hi guys, it's Janae and welcome back to my channel, and today I'm continuing my read along for Motu Volume 3. As you can see, we are doing fan translations because we don't have an official copy yet, though I really hope they do get on that because I so badly want to have these. Own these, that's the word. How did I forget that word? Anyway, hi guys, I hope you're doing well. Let me quickly just get everything ready so we have the pop-up chats here. Okay, hi. So quick thing, if you're new here, hi, I'm Janae. I do down my read-alongs in live format, and I have tea with me. We're gonna take a 10-minute break on the hour, and yeah, also I have a blanket because it's freaking cold here, so I might be sipping tea more often than usual just to warm myself up. We'll see how it goes. Hi, Wolf Undermoon. I haven't seen you in a while. Oh, okay. So I swear I had this ready. Okay. We left off with Luwen Zhou saying that he wasn't trying to kiss Feidu to all of our disappointments. He was just deciding whether or not to punch him. Um, so yeah, that's where we left off. But I think we can more or less get going. I just want to make sure everything is still fine here. I hope the audio is okay. Hi. Um, Missed the last stream. Yeah, YouTube has been pretty weird with notifications recently. I'm so sorry about that. I honestly don't know what to do because I tried to contact them and they basically just made it seem like it was my fault. Which is always great. We love that. But anyway, okay, I think we can get started. Feidu had yet to. Sorry, let's go again. Feidu had yet to voice any protest against his barbarous conduct when there was an uproar near them. Boss, there's a new video. Lowendraw temporarily let Feidu off and accepted a pair of headphones. The whole Zhou villa, including those still under suspicion, held their breaths and concentrated, waiting for word from the kidnapper. In the video, Zhou Huajin had woken up, but he was in a much sorrier state than before. His perfectly cut and styled hair was in total disorder, as if he'd struggled and been put down. There were bruises on his face and body, and his expression was of mingled rage and alarm. The ropes had been tied tighter, and the blood from the wound on his neck had stained his shirt. His chest was rising and falling non-stop. Outside the frame, a voice distorted by a voice changer said, "Read it." Zhu Huijin's gaze hardened slightly, and veins stood out on his neck. "You guys." He'd only said 2 words when he was kicked to the ground along with his chair. Then the person holding the camera beat the victim. The camera flashed wildly for a while. There was only the sound of fists and feet hitting a body and the dull moans of pain. Then the screen went black. Over at the internet police, the atmosphere was thick. They still had nothing. Zhu Huijin's legs folded at the sight. He had no more attention to spare to exchange curses with Yang Bo. He clutched at the clothes of the people next to him. "I'll pay. We'll get some hackers, all right? As much money as it takes, as long as they'll come." My brother, my brother." In the pre-recorded video, the temporary black screen passed, and there was an image again. The camera focused on Zhou Huijin, lying on the ground. The hoarse voice said again, "Read it." Zhou Huijin's lips trembled a few times. This man, born with a silver spoon in his mouth, knew very well how to protect himself. He easily made the choice to submit. He struggled to look at the prompter held up somewhere, then stammeringly read, "I'll ask you a question, and you'll have 10 minutes to answer. Post the answer on the Zhou clan's homepage. I already know the answer. If you dare lie, I'll... Zhou Haijin panted twice, a whimper coming out of his throat. I'll cut a part off of President Zhou. We're going to peel off a certain person's skin and have a look. Oh, wonderful. No, it wasn't YouTube, it was me. Oh, okay. Oh goodness, this is so grim, and this is like the scary bit in hostage situations for me, where they realize that like as long as they keep the person alive, they can start cutting off as many pieces of that person as they like. Which is just anyway. Sorry. The first question is, Zhou Junmao, a sanctimonious hypocrite, brazenly keeping his illegitimate son by his side, cultivating him as an heir. Is this paternity report real? You stole my... Sorry, I don't know what that sound was. Having read to this point, Zhou Huajin came around, his expression becoming agitated. A kidnapper kicked him in the back of the head, and he gave a sob, gently twitching. Then he didn't move. He may have fainted. A crinkled paternity report appeared on the screen. The kidnapper, using that hoarse, ugly-sounding voice, said, 10 minutes. After he spoke, the video ended, and a timer counting down from 10 minutes appeared. For a moment, the whole Zhou house was deadly silent. Everyone looked at the countdown as though they were looking at a monster. At the same time, a bomb had been dropped onto the fiber-optic crossed virtual world, blowing up a wide swath of roaring mountains and tsunamis. Zhou Junmao's legitimate son, the Zhou clan's heir, has been kidnapped? We're in the middle of a wealthy family drama. There's also people's lives at stake here, but okay. Within a minute, Lu Wenzhou's cell phone and those of the Zhou family members, along with the residents' landlines, all rang at once. The whole Zhou residence turning into a hotline, the whole world trying to get first-hand information. Lu Wenzhou looked down. He couldn't not take Director Lu's phone call. He hadn't gotten the word hello out of his mouth before Director Lu hurried ahead. What's going on? The kidnapper's done all this and you still haven't found him? Are there no clues? If you don't have enough people, get some transferred over. You've got to find the bastard, even if you have to dig all the way down. My office phone is about to blow up. They have 10 minutes to save someone's life. Can you calm down, please? Well, not calm down, but like focus. Sorry. Before Luo and Zhou could report his progress to his superior, Zhou Huajin had already jumped up and seized Hu Jinyue's collar. Answer him. Answer him. Hu Dage. Post a notice at once answering him yes. Yes, it's true. That paternity report is real. That Yang is the shameless and illegitimate son. Yang Bo's fair face went white, as if he'd been struck by lightning. He froze under everyone's gaze. Hu Jinyue said, Huaixin, calm down a little. My brother got people to do the paternity test in secret. He showed it to me earlier. It can't be wrong. That report must be the one they took from my big brother's bag. It's irrefutable proof. There's nothing to quibble about. Hu Dage, didn't they say they already knew the answer before they asked? My dad is dead. The dead don't care about their reputations. Forget about not washing your dirty linen in public. My brother's safety is the most critical thing. Luo Zhou's left ear was full of Zhou Huaixin's screaming, while in his right ear, Director Lu was categorically ordering, you have to contain this at once, or you'll be writing me a self-examination when you get back. Zhou Huaixin pushed aside a police officer next to him and went to snatch his own tablet, lying on the table. If you won't post it, then I will. Huaixin! Don't be rash, Mr. Zhou. In the whole scene, only Fei Du remained aloof. Wholly uninterested in whether Zhou Huijin lived or died, indifferent to pressure exerted by any superiors. He was neither stressed nor impressed. He calmly looked up and said to Zhou Huixin, "Zhou Xiong, I advise you not to ask or answer anything, or, afterwards, it won't be a matter of this sort of immaterial little question. What do you think of that?" Zhou Huixin said blankly, Then what do I do?" Feidu ignored him, saying quietly to a technician next to him, "Isolate the audio from when Zhou Huijin was kicked down. I think I just heard that the floor sounded hollow." Hearing this, Luo Wenzhou paused at once and hung up on Director Lu without a word. He strode up to the screen in one step. "Let me see the whole thing from the beginning." All the images once again quickly flashed across the screen. Feidu said, "Aside from when the screen went black, the camera lens was very close to the victim. There wasn't a single full body shot. It could be that there wasn't enough space, and if they filmed anywhere else." I just got a notification that my OBS connected and disconnected. So let me know if you guys lost any audio. Like, do I need to reread a part? I'm not sure what just happened. Let's see. I can't exactly check. Okay. So you guys didn't lose any of the audio. That's fine then. What will be? It could be that there wasn't enough space, and if they filmed anywhere else, it would easily reveal the victim's location. Oh, the camera lens only moved side to side in a rather limited scope. Luo and Zhou again had the video stop at the part where Zhou Huijin was kicked to the ground. The camera had only pointed down at him. Luo and Zhou put his hand on the shoulder of the technician next to him. "Can you estimate how far the camera moves side to side?" Oh, that's gonna be complicated. But also, can I just say, I love how Luo and Zhou just immediately went into trusting Feidu mode. Like, obviously he has no reason not to, but I just love how they just seamlessly work together as a team despite all the, like, you know, married couple bickering that they do on the side. About a 1.50 m, not over a 1.80 m at most. Captain Luo listened to this bit. When Zhou Huijin fell along with his chair, there was a very strange banging sound, hollow, with a faint echo. A hollow floor, only a meter something wide. Feidu spread his hands. "Is it impossible it's in the trailer of a truck?" Before he had finished, Luo and Zhou was already contacting Taoran. "The kidnappers may be in the trailer of a truck that's stopping and starting. Search the security cameras around Baisha. Put up a roadblock on all exits out of the city. Stop any suspicious trucks and search them." Without putting down the phone, he called Lang Chao on another one. "How's it going over there?" Lang Chao quickly said, "I've locked in on the Hengda conglomerate. Hengda's position is close to the Zhou clans. They're a major local power, and there's been a serious conflict between the two companies since Zhou Junmao moved operations back into this country. The only time they attempted to reconcile and collaborate on a project, Zhou Junmao squashed it midway. Hengda has a subsidiary fund. Last night, they made no moves, as if they hadn't reacted yet. But first thing this morning, they suddenly went into action in the foreign markets, planning on the Zhou clan stock falling." Before Lang Chao had finished her report, Hu Jingyue loudly cried, "What are you doing?" Zhou turned his head. Hu Jingyu had been distracted and Zhou Huaixin had snatched his phone away while the screen hadn't yet locked after being used and quickly used Hu Jingyu's account to access the Zhou clan's official website. You had one job. Like, one job. Keep an eye on the dude and make sure he doesn't do something stupid. And you couldn't do that. Oh my goodness. By the time he was held down, he'd already posted the word yes. How are you gonna feel if that yes seals your brother's fate and he dies because that's the only question they needed answered? And now he's disposable. Chapter 67, Macbeth 7. Sorry, 8. How do I count? A truck, Taran said into one of Lo and Zhou's ears. Lao Luo, it's unavoidable for vehicles coming into the outer ring to pass through Baisha. It's all trucks coming and going. Should we search the ones coming into the city or the ones leaving? The kidnappers spirited him away in a vehicle. Do you think Zhou Huaijin is still in Yan City? Nang Chao meanwhile said into his other ear, Boss, should I bring the person in charge back to the city bureau now or investigate the outgoing and incoming emails first? Behind him, a flustered and exasperated Hu Jinye was pointing at Zhou Huaixin. What are you doing? You're too impulsive. Next to him, Yang Bo's face and neck were all red. I'm going to report you for damages to my reputation. Lo and Zhou, ... This poor man just has way too much going on. Chicken Soup for the Soul often posed the question, why do humans have 2 ears and 1 mouth? Now he thought he'd understood. Even if they'd had 4 ears, it wouldn't necessarily have been enough. Feidu's gaze flitted over Hu Jinye, then fell on Zhou Huaixin. Zhou Huaixin straightened his neck. On his addict's face, aside from the eyeliner, something else appeared, indistinct and indiscernible, that made him actually appear rather human. I'm not worried about what they say outside, and I'm not worried about any losses of market value on any markets. I don't understand those things. Hudaga, and I don't want to understand them. I only know that I have no one close to me but my brother. Having finished this proclamation, Zhou Haixin's voice fell away, and he stared into Hu Jinye's eyes. Hu Jinye for some reason avoided his gaze. Zhou Haixin turned up the corners of his mouth in a half smile. It was unclear whether he was marking others on or himself. This won't sound good, but there are some things that if the old man did them, there would always come a day when they'd be dug up. Paper can't contain a fire. You don't really think you'll have eternal glory. Virginia, in all likelihood, had never in his life experienced elegant words coming out of Zhou Huaixin's mouth. For a time, he was speechless. Can you find my brother within 10 minutes? Zhou Huaixin's gaze swept over to the surrounding police. Then go look for him. What the hell are you doing staring at me for? I'm the old man's legitimate son, and I'm also one of his heirs. I'm deciding to let the dead be sacrificed a little for the sake of the living. Don't I have that right? These words rather sounded like they made sense. I'm so glad we agree on that. As long as my brother is all right, Zhou Huaixin proclaimed, his eyes red. I'll announce that my dad's an asshole. A person has to be adaptable, so I'll be an asshole spawn. Even if my father is conscious underground, he'll know who wanted to hurt him, who wanted to hurt our family. The blame won't fall on me. Hu Jinye's forehead broke out into hot sweat. Just then, someone coughed heavily at the door, and a voice coldly said, Your family really does belong to you two brothers, but the conglomerate doesn't. How many business partners and small shareholders does such a large operation involve, huh? Even the old man didn't dare to make uh, per- preparatory decisions while he was living. What are you supposed to be? When wretch. I almost called him a wench. Oh my goodness. Um, Law and Zhou turned his head and saw several Zhou clan employees scatter into a flurry from the door, and an emaciated old man slowly walk in. He was less than 1.7 meters tall and a little stooped, making him look smaller and skinnier. Profound wrinkles came down from his nose to split his chin into three parts. The corners of his mouth hung down heavily, as if he'd never smiled in his life. That's a really good description. Seeing the newcomer, Hu Junye subconsciously stood up straight. Ben Bo Zhang. Yang Bo sucked in a deep breath and quickly walked over, curling up his tall and strong body like a little eunuch to lean close to the man. You're here at last, President Zheng. Zhou Weixin stared at the old man with a sneer on his face, saying nothing. Lu and Zhou understood that this was Georgian Mao's deputy, Zheng Kaifeng. I'm so sorry I'm butchering all these names. Oh. Zheng Kaifeng treated the Zhou house with as his own territory, disregarding the roomful of police unhurriedly coming in. He looked all around and in a glance understood who was in charge of the scene. He went straight up to Lo Wen-jo and reached out a hand towards him. Very heartfelt, he said, "This is a disgrace. It's put you to so much trouble." On first meeting, Lo Wen-jo was choked by Zheng Kaifeng's presumption. Originally, it had been the police investigating a case, and the whole Zhou clan, including Zheng Kaifeng, were suspects. With a few words, he twisted the situation to make it seem as if the Zhou clan was opposing a nameless evil, and they'd happened to find a crowd of police officers to act as hired thugs. I have to say, I didn't quite read it that way, but I can see how Lo and Zhou interpreted it that way. Because it does kind of seem like they're now working for the Zhou clan instead of working for the city. Lo and Zhou shook his hand rather perfunctorily and calmly twisted the subject back around. Pernicious criminal cases are within the scope of our duty. It's just work, no question of trouble or no trouble. Our first aim now is to rescue the hostage. With that as our foundation, we'll also do our best to reduce the case's social impact. When it's necessary, we'll have to trouble the family members to cooperate with us. The corner of Zheng Kaifeng's eye twitched faintly, and his expression became heavy. Lo Wen-jo was naturally capable of dealing with everyone. He was immune to all kinds of high positions of power. Wholly uncaring, he drew back his hand and turned to Zhou Huaixin. "Especially young Mr. Zhou, we understand the family's feelings. If there is really no other way for safety of the hostage, there is no harm in giving way to the kidnappers. But I hope that'll be the last step. Your announcement should wait until the last moment of the countdown." Zhou Huaixin gave a sharp snort. "And then there's President Hu." Smiling, Lu Wen-jo turned to Hu Junye. "President Hu says that young Mr. Zhou is too impetuous. But you're pretty hasty yourself. You're already logged into the website's back end. As I see it, everyone should stop talking all over each other and go give your statements. Let's have some people over here to separate them and take them away." And this is why he's the captain, because he is capable as all hell, even though he hides it 90% of the time behind a veneer of laziness. Oh my goodness, sorry. A few criminal policemen came up at this and brooked no argument, and brooking no argument separated the crowd of people constituting the real power in the Zhou clan. In the air-conditioned room in early autumn, it seemed that the sweat at Hu Jinyu's temples couldn't be wiped away. Zheng Kaifeng looked coldly at Lu Wenzhou. "Young man, you've got some style." Lu Wenzhou grinned at him. "I think so too. Thank you for the praise, though in my capacity as a person in charge of handling major cases, I don't look forward to serving you again. Sir, please come this way." Am I allowed to be in love? Just a little bit? Having disposed of this crowd of people doing more harm than good, he turned his head and met Feidu's not quite smiling gaze as he stared at him. Encountering his eyes, Lu Wenzhou's heart constricted. He felt that Feidu's unmatched peach blossom eyes really were supernaturally endowed, giving him a powerful enough telescope, and he'd be able to look up Chenga's skirts. Oh my goodness! Not that poor moon goddess being dragged into this. "Say something useful," Lu Wenzhou said exhaustedly to Feidu. "All those wishing to praise my good looks or express their infatuation can line up in the back." Feidu said, "I want to pass on that the internet police have a lead on the people who posted the video." Oh, that's promising. Lu Wenzhou had been prepared for a protracted campaign against psychotic kidnappers. Hearing this, he froze. "So fast?" "That's right. So you'd better not have any grand expectations." Feidu paused. Then some mood caused him to add, "Shishong." "Excuse me?" Sorry, the cough was not cued into that but it did not help it. What? Okay. Lu Wenzhou ... How could he use such an ordinary tone of voice to speak such an ordinary form of address and yet make it sound so sexual? It was really incomprehensible. While the internet police were excitedly crying out, "We've got him!" the kidnapper, secure in the knowledge of his own security, uploaded a third recording. Great. I just want to check if everything is still okay, considering we've been having some issues. This time, the camera lens had actually been drawn further away, showing Zhou Huaijin's whole body and, at the same time, letting those watching understand the hostage's location at a glance. The whole space was plastered with black plastic cloth. It was less than 1.8 meters wide, and the height was also very limited. At a visual estimate, it was only the height of a grown man. It really didn't look like a truck's trailer. Feidu stared, thoughtfully rubbing his chin, and looked up at Lu Wenzhou. Lu Wenzhou understood what he meant at once. He frowned slightly. Before, the kidnappers had formed very close to Zhou Huaijin, carefully avoiding anything that could provide a clue to their surroundings, including during the segment when Zhou Huaijin had been beaten. Only when they determined that the kidnappers might be in the trailer of a truck did the other side send them a film like this. Had the kidnappers used their magic powers to install listening devices in the Zhou house, or was someone in the room in real-time contact with them? That's an interesting theory. I also have a fear that these videos are potentially on more of a delay than the police are realizing, so they have time to move a lot further between each upload than the police are maybe accounting for. Law and Zhou said quietly to the people next to him, "Get everyone in the house under control, including the cook, housekeeper, gardener, and anyone else going in and out. Hurry." In the video, Zhou Huaijin was looking even sorrier than before. Someone had splashed cold water all over his face, and it was dripping down. However firm a temperament he may have had, he couldn't work his courage up any more. He seemed to have been disciplined into submission. This time, he didn't waste any words. Staring into the direction of the screen, he flatly read out the kidnapper's letter. "It's good that you can admit it. Now I'll ask you the second question. Same rules, 10 minutes. Why was the famous entrepreneur and philanthropist George Mao so public-spirited? Are the 3 public welfare funds under his name for grandstanding or for laundering money? Did George Mao, Dalong, really think he could change his name and become a nobleman and that no one would know what was under his skin?" Oh goodness. But this does make it feel like this is someone from his past coming back for revenge. Mm. The malicious video cut off abruptly and the countdown returned. The atmosphere in the whole Zhou residence instantly tensed. Everyone, including the household staff, was separated. At the same time, the internet police finally locked onto the transmitter of the video. Lang Chao, just then at the general headquarters of the Hengda conglomerate, received the news. She only glanced at it, then took a pair of handcuffs out of her pocket and put them on the person in charge who had been leading them in circles. They can't escape responsibility. Search. 10 minutes was both very short and very long. In reality, it was only long enough for people to walk up a few flights of stairs, but on the internet it was long enough for information to travel around the globe countless times. In a short time, all kinds of information sprang up, the true and false hard to distinguish. There were people who stood up to solemnly swear that George Mao's former name had been Zhou Dalong. They even posted photographs attaching beneath them the whole story of George Mao leaving the country to seek refuge with family, running errands and doing manual labor for distant relations, and starting a collaborative enterprise with his first savings. In the end, the most curious thing was why the other founder of the Zhou clan had vanished from the scene. Next, the topic moved from Zhou Huaijin's kidnapping back to George Mao's unusual car crash. The old philanthropist, and now I lost my place. The old philanthropist's noble and prestigious image of many years came tumbling down in the wake of one video. Some were saying he laundered money, some were saying he was a traitor to his country, and there were even some saying he had engaged in cross-border human trafficking. It was a competition of the powers of imagination of urban legend. As a focal point of attention, Dong Qian, the responsible driver in George Mao's car crash, of course couldn't escape unscathed. People had quickly gone back through the 8 generations of his ancestors. It was as if the seeds of conspiracy were buried in each strand of his hair. Captain Law, it's nearly been 10 minutes, and this is why they told you not to post things ahead of time, because that means that they had less time to investigate between the things. Take over the official website's bulletin board and issue a response to the kidnappers under the name of the police force. Luanzhou paused. Say that the financial investigators have already gotten involved in the investigation and are currently verifying the relevant circumstances. Ask them not to spread unfounded rumors. If they have definitive proof, they're welcome to report it. Warn the kidnappers to surrender themselves before they bring about any grave consequences. I mean, this is not gonna go well, but sure. That won't work, boss. The number of visitors to the Zhou clan's official website skyrocketed. It's crashed. Oh great. Law and Zhou. ... The kidnappers' countdown was down to the last minute. A call came from Lang Chao. Boss, we found the email where the Hengda conglomerate bought the promotion and a portion of the payment vouchers. It really was them uploading the kidnappers' videos. That seems too convenient, but maybe it is just that straightforward. Lorenzo said, don't tell me they don't know who the kidnappers are. They say they don't know who the kidnappers are, Lang Chao said quickly. This morning after Zhou Huijin disappeared, Hengda's public relations department received a mysterious email with a few blurry photographs attached. They thought it was fake at the time. They're not very fastidious over at Hengda. With Georgian Mao dying yesterday, they wanted to take the opportunity to muddy the waters. Then the person who sent them the videos said the images were composites. They believed it and posted them. At most, they're guilty of malicious commercial competition, right? And Charles said, that's what they said. My ass, what are they doing using so many anti-tracking measures for a practical joke? Bring in everyone related to it. Keep tracking the person who sent the emails. Luanjo glanced at the countdown. Like flowing water, the time was passing unfeelingly. The Zhou clan's official website was still in the state of paralysis, fully unmoving. Look, boss, we found this on the chauffeur who drove young Bull here. Lowenjo accepted a cell phone. He saw that the suspicious chauffeur was logged into an obviously newly registered Weibo account. The most recent status updates openly read, the police know that the meat is in the truck. The countdown hit 0. Great! This is so many shades of not good. I'm very stressed. Chapter 68, Macbeth 9. The Zhou clan's official website had crashed, and nearly simultaneously, Lang Chao had arrested the person posting the videos for the kidnappers. The internet police were racing against the clock to use the incoming and outgoing emails to track down the sender, but now the delicate balance and communication channel between the kidnappers and the police had been severed. The entire internet was extending its antennas, sailing mightily against the current through time and rumor. In this instant, Georgian Mao was no longer a person. His whole life, his experiences, and his sex scandals had become an open book. Every punctuation mark of it publicly circulated, laid bare before the gazes of the multitude, supplying material for people to sob and chew over, their judgments running rampant. It holds together. Who is this illegitimate son that the Zhou clan has officially acknowledged? An account of Georgian Mao's mistresses. Zhou clan's A shares tumbled when the market opened. An inquiry into the different regulations for A shares in the Hong Kong market. Why did the Zhou clan's mysterious other founder die young? Georgian Mao's original name was Zhou Dalong. His whole life was the rise of an underdog. Was Georgian Mao's late wife actually his cousin's widow? Famous wives in history. Oh my word, I'm not surprised, but I am disappointed. This is very accurate, but it's still depressing. Sorry, I'm struggling a little bit. Okay, an illegitimate son took out a hit on his father. It's almost like the plot of Oedipus. And so on and so forth, without exception, covering heaven and earth. Aside from prohibiting the character Zhou, expelling it from the book of family names, there was no way to delete all of it. On the kidnappers' countdown, 0 minutes and 0 seconds flashed incessantly. After the Hingda conglomerate's nonsense stirrers had been arrested, the kidnappers had shut their mouths to the outside world, inauspiciously maintaining silence. Countless pairs of eyes were fixed on an unmoving web page. Law and Zhou lifted Yang Bo's chauffeur's collar. It's been a long time since I've seen a criminal bold enough to pass secret messages right under the noses of police. Friend, you're the embodiment of valor. The chauffeur was round 30 with regular features that looked rather proper, but they were regular features that were entirely unmemorable. He'd evidently come in with young Bo, but it had been ages before anyone had noticed him. Now that he'd suddenly been seized, the chauffeur's legs were trembling so much he could hardly stand up. I didn't do anything. I just posted on Weibo. I mean, you assisted a kidnapping. That's enough. That's bad enough. Sorry, guys. I think I might need to take the break early just to try and clear my throat a bit. There was something that was bothering me about this. Oh, not bothering. Kind of to their benefit, the fact that the kidnappers can't contact them to make threats means that they're being forced to not be able to move forward with any plans or threats or like countdowns right now. So that could be good, but then they could get impatient and just decide to murder Zhou Huai Jin, so that could go bad as well. Oh goodness, I really think I should maybe just take the break now, and I'll be back at 5. Yeah, let's do 5 to 10, and hopefully I will sound better by the time we get back. Okay, we are back. Hope the audio is still okay. Sorry about that. But I think I just kind of needed to clear my throat without potentially harming your ears. So hopefully I'll be able to hold off until we finish where I want to be finished by for the day. My throat must just not give me any more issues because it's highly frustrating. Anyway, okay. Again, hope the audio is still okay. And I have new tea here with me, so I think we should be good. Okay, so we ended off with posted on Weibo. Using a newly registered account to post thieves. Okay, that doesn't make sense. So I'm just going to reword it to what would make sense to me. Using a newly registered account to post what thieves can't. Who's it for? Zhou and Zhou swiftly handcuffed him. Are you keeping a diary or expressing your feelings towards MC Space? Feidu took a few steps back to avoid impacting Lo Wenjuo's dramatic capabilities. He shook his head, full of sympathy. I know the person who incited you is in this house. Perhaps he's even watching you. Think clearly, sir. If Zhou Huaijin has an accident now, your situation will change. What did he give you that you're willing to give up your own life to take the blame for him? When he spoke, someone called Captain Law. The kidnappers are moving again. Law and Jaw. ... They acted as soon as he'd mentioned having an accident. Feidu was amazing. If it were only possible to sew his crow's mouth shut, Law and Jaw thought he would have filled an iron bar down into a needle. Filed, sorry. One thing that's like low-key sad to me is the chapter titles being Macbeth. I'm assuming that somewhere hidden in that title is a clue as to like the machinations that is going on here and what the broader picture might be. And unfortunately, I never read Macbeth because every single year that we were supposed to read it, it got pushed back into another year that I was no longer a part of. So, yeah, I've never read that even though I desperately do want to. And now I feel like it's the lack of knowledge on it is letting me down. Okay, lacking the Hengda conglomerate's technical support, the kidnappers seemed to be at their wits' end. In turmoil, they posted a fourth video. This time, it was only a few dozen seconds long. The camera was shaking furiously, focused on a man in silhouette. The man appeared to be one of the kidnappers. He was wrapped head to toe in black cloth, not showing a single strand of hair. He held the camera with one hand, filming his other hand. That hand was holding a boning knife. Boning knife? Zhou Huaijin was desperately curled up, the terror in his voice about to solidify. I don't know. I don't have anything to do with the Asian business. My dad and President Zhang handled all of it. I really don't understand anything about the funds. Stay away. Stay away from me. Just then, another voice came from outside the frame. It seemed to be the knife-holding kidnapper's accomplice. His voice, through the voice-changing machine, was hurried. Stop filming. Hurry up. They'll catch up soon. The knife-holding kidnapper completely ignored him, slowly lifting the knife in his hand. Zhou Huaijin seethed like a live fish, at last managing to stand on his own legs, which were tied to two legs of the chair. He tottered backwards, but unfortunately this young master's hindbrain wasn't very well developed. He tripped on something and lost his center of gravity. He screamed and fell to one side, out of frame. In the moment he fell, the camera lens flashed, as if the knife-holding kidnapper had struck. Everyone's hearts thumped, including Luo Wenjuo's. The next instant, the camera steadied again. Because Zhou Haijin had fallen, the knife had narrowly missed him, cutting through the black cloth firmly covering the walls of the trailer, suddenly cutting a fissure in it with a tremendous ripping sound, as if it had the force to cut a person apart. The knife-holding kidnapper clicked his tongue, seeming rather regretful. Behind him, his accomplice was rushed. "Hurry up! Aren't you finished yet?" Zhou immediately raised a hand to block Fidu's line of sight. Oh, the consideration! This is not the kind of consideration we saw at the first time where they were dealing with blood, within the book. Oh my goodness. No, slow down. I'll tell you. You're right. You said everything right. In the video, Zhou Huaijin was panicked enough that he wasn't choosing his words carefully. Hearing this, the knife-holding kidnapper paused, gently tilting his head. His flustered accomplice swore. He turned his head and seemed to open the trailer's door. A ray of light shone in, falling on Zhou Haijin's miserable face. Zhou Haijin's eyes were blinded by the sunlight. He struggled futilely to climb up the wall as he breathlessly said, "Domestically, there's three public welfare funds. Only one is properly operated to 4 people. The other are covered for money laundering and tax evasion. Cross-border supervision of funds is full of holes. It's hard to investigate. This is absolute truth. I have proof. What else do you want to know? I'll tell you everything." "I'm scared you've just outlived your usefulness, good sir." The knife-holding kidnapper patiently waited for him to finish and nodded in apparent satisfaction. Then, without warning, he stabbed. A heart-rending scream came from the image. Before the anxious watchers could see what had happened, the whole trailer shook violently, as if the vehicle had suddenly started to move. The video came to an abrupt end. Fidu patted the back of Lowenjo's hand and turned to the handcuffed chauffeur, spreading his hands towards the terrified man. "You see? What was I saying?" The chauffeur's eyes rolled up. He was trying to faint, but unfortunately Lowenjo was categorically unwilling to give him the opportunity. He took him by the neck, lifted him and gave him a shake. "I'll ask you again, who are you working for? If you keep holding back, you'll be one of the principal offenders." The chauffeur's eyes flickered all over the place. He was frightened out of his wits. I... Lowenjo let go immediately and loudly said, "Look into his personal accounts, assets, and close relatives, including children, as well as everyone he's recently contacted on his cell phone, landline, and social media. I don't believe this." It was President Yang," the chauffeur cried out. "Don't go after my kids. We don't know anything. It's all President Yang ordered me to, all what President Yang ordered me to do." "President Yang?" Fedu calmly leaned on a rosewood table. "Yang Bo? You mean that kidnapping Zhou Haijin and revealing his own identity as the legitimate son was a performance put on by Yang Bo? What did he tell you to do?" This feels too easy. This feels too obvious. I thought it might be him, but I was like, no, that seems way too obvious. Oh goodness, okay, let's see. The chauffeur collapsed listlessly on the chair, his eyebrows resting elbows resting on his knees. Looking for a hole to crawl into, he held his head with his cuffed hands and quietly said, "He told me to register a new account and post status updates to tell them over there what you guys are doing, so they could run in time." When he spoke the word "in time," Fedu's eyes narrowed slightly. Lowenjo quickly followed up, "So do you know where the kidnappers are?" No, I don't know." "Nonsense. I really don't know, really. I've always worked for President Hu. I'm not one of President Yang's people." He couldn't trust me entirely. I posted whatever I heard, let them judge for themselves whether it was right or not. I only know they're still in Yan City because the truck could be searched going out of it. The risk would be greater. It was better to hide in plain sight. Anyway, hide in plain sight. So like right outside the headquarters of the city bureau, perhaps. Pedro said, anyway, there was you to pass information to them. The chauffeur looked at him, then quickly avoided his gaze. They said they'd find a suitable place and drive the truck with him in it into the river, and the kidnappers themselves would break out of the windows and go ashore. They'd run away towards some deserted wild place. When they'd cross the water, not even a dog would be able to find them, and no one would be the wiser. That's a unfortunately pretty solid plan, I feel. Like, it's not perfect, but it doesn't have that many flaws. Zhou turned away and picked up his phone. Taran, look for a truck with about a 2-ton trailer. From last night to early this morning, eliminate passing vehicles. Right. The kidnappers are still around the Baisha River Basin. Eliminate the places within a 10-kilometer range where the water is shallow. Eliminate villages and inhabited places. Eliminate places with relative level terrain. Taran quickly said. Then there's only the shelter forest in the northeast, less than a kilometer from me. Zhou said. Blast the sirens. There are 2 kidnappers. It's easy for them to disagree. In a stressful situation, perhaps the hostage still has a chance. No, I feel like they might just kill him while panicking. This feels very risky. This does sound like a rather satisfying story. Young Bo is the illegitimate son of George and Mao refuses to acknowledge. He schemes his way into the upper levels and finds a suitable opportunity to dispose of George and Mao, then kidnaps Zhou Huaijin, forcing the Zhou clan to officially recognize him as an illegitimate son. He seemed genuinely shocked about the revelation, though. Legitimizing him as the heir to George and Mao's legacy. Fedu took off his glasses and wiped them, continuing to question the chauffeur. Bear with my curiosity. What did young Bo promise you? The thing as well is, imagine you're someone wanting to take over a successful family company and you want to lay claim to what you perceive to be yours. Would the best approach to that be completely tanking that company financially? That doesn't seem likely. My son. The chauffeur forced the words out with difficulty. My son had to go abroad for medical treatment. I had no money and no connections. Fedor shook his head in apparent disappointment. That old chestnut. Zhou put the phone down and gave him a warning glance to make him mind what he said. Fedor's tone changed. I'm saying, young Bo could give you what you needed, but can it really be that Zhou Huaijin couldn't? Even Zhou Huaixin would do. Why would you rely solely on young Bo? When you flap your lips and say young Bo incited you, how are we to know that you aren't framing him? Zhou immediately followed with another question. Colluding with outsiders, publicizing the Zhou clan's scandals, beating down his own company's stock price. Thank you, I'm so glad someone else mentioned that. What benefit is there to young Bo? Is he harming others without benefiting himself? No, the chauffeur shook his head wildly. As soon as they acknowledged that he was the illegitimate son, the official website would crash. If it didn't crash on its own, they'd find someone to make it crash. No one would be able to get on when the time came or post any statement. No matter what the kidnappers asked, the company wouldn't admit it, and it would be an opportunity to get rid of President Zhou. Otherwise, why wouldn't the kidnappers make them post the announcement on the company's official Weibo? Afterwards, they'd only need to grieve for Zhou Huaijin's demise, denounce the demented kidnappers, put down all those unanswered questions as slander. This is not adding up. After the masses had finished making merry, they'd remember political correctness and would, of course, get in line to condemn violence and sympathize with the victims. The company wouldn't really suffer serious injury. With George and Mao and Zhou Huaijin gone, the only one left would be a little skeleton Zhou Huaixin who isn't worth mentioning. There is no need to say whose hands the company would land up in. Feidu spread his hands. It makes perfect sense. I suppose it sounds very satisfactory. The chauffeur stared numbly at him, feeling that there was something behind Feidu's words. Take him away back to the bureau. In the Baisha River Valley, a motorcade of police cars hauling fit to send the mountains tumbling down, divided up, heading swift as the wind towards the sheltered forest in the northeast, producing almost an atmosphere of siege in the peaceful open country. After an autumn rain a few days ago, the uninhabited open country was full of mud, the swell having soaked in all the water. Deputy Tao, there are fresh tire tracks. Taran wiped some sweat away. Follow them. The water in the Baisha River had risen slightly, and the sound of water grew louder and louder as they followed the river. The indistinct tire tracks quickly led them to the river bank. There! In the water! In the water! A white truck was bobbing up and down in the Baisha River, slowly sinking towards the depths it was pushed along by the rapid current. In the Zhou residence, aside from Yang Bo, who had been taken away for individual interrogation, everyone held their breath and concentrated, waiting to hear word. Everyone's expressions were different. Everyone had an axe to grind, but Zhou Huaixin, displaying his true feelings, tightly clutched the arms of a wooden chair, his non-mainstream long fingernails gouging the wood, making it creak. Each second seemed to be drawn out 2 weeks long. Captain Law. Just then, Taran's voice came somewhat indistinctly from among the sounds of rushing water. We've gone into the container, and he isn't there. I don't know if the kidnappers took him or if the water swept him away. Damn. The other person who seems likely right now is Zheng Kaifeng, because as long as there is no acting head, I'm pretty sure Zheng Kaifeng would become the acting head. Zheng Kaifeng's face sank slightly. Hu Jingyue's back stiffened. Zhou Haixin stood up at once, banging his hips against the solid wooden table, but not feeling it at all. There was no trace of blood left in his lips, like a pale clown in the morning after. Keep looking, Zhou said heavily. Deputy Tao, look here! The kidnappers must have been alarmed by the police sirens, driven the truck into the water and ran. The container hadn't been tightly closed, and Zhou Haijin inside it had floated out along with the wooden chair under him, like a shoddy life buoy. The wooden chair was drifting like a leaf among the storm, dragging a man who may have been dead or alive. I mean, he's not a great person, but I'm still somewhat happy he's alive. Or potentially alive, I should rather say. I've got him. Hold tight, don't let go. Wait a minute. He's still breathing. 20 minutes later, the news that Zhou Haijin had been rescued arrived at Zhou residence. The knife had cut Zhou Haijin's leg, but luckily it hadn't hit anything vital. The panicked kidnapper hadn't allowed his accomplice to carefully attend to murder and dismemberment. Oh, thank goodness for that. He'd been alarmed by the distant police sirens and impatiently stepped on the gas, driving the truck into the Baisha River. Then the two kidnappers had fled in an unknown direction, and Zhou Haijin had floated out into the river. Hu Junye heaved a sigh of relief. Jin Kaifeng silently closed his eyes, perhaps reciting a prayer or something. Zhou Haixin collapsed onto the ground and couldn't get up for a long time. Then he tottered into the bathroom and was violently ill. Okay, but the way you said how convenient makes it seem like Zhou Jin was the orchestrator behind that, and if that's the case, please be mindful of spoilers in the future. If that's not the case, that's fine. Someone came through the door after him. Zhou Haixin thought it was a housekeeper. Gasping, he closed his eyes and reached out a hand, hoarsely saying, "Get me some water." Maybe don't trust random people right now. I know this is highly paranoid of me to say, and how can he literally not trust anyone right now? But at the same time, I'm like, you're really giving yourself the opportunity to be poisoned here. An opened water bottle was placed into his hand. Zhou Huaixin poured it into his mouth, then heard the person behind him speak. "That bad, Zhou Shong? Didn't you already know the outcome?" Taken by surprise, Zhou Haixin gulped the mouthful of water he was using to rinse his mouth. Okay, let's see what the reveal is. Oh! Master Fei Zhou Haixin rather stiffly turned his head and forced a smile. "What did you say?" Fei looked back. People were chaotically going back and forth all over the place, and no one was looking their way, so he closed the bathroom door. The lights in the bathroom were dim, deepening the lines of his eyes and brow, making him look like a sharp ink painting. "Don't pretend. I didn't just meet you yesterday." Fei leaned against the door, very relaxed, looking at Zhou Haixin with an almost smile. "You only saw your dad a few times a year, and you never care at all about your family's property or any legitimate or illegitimate sons. From yesterday up to now, I think the only true words that came out of your mouth were what you said when you snatched President Hu's phone." Zhou Haixin turned and backed up against the sink, his expression grim, looking at him silently. "Even if Yang Bo really was your dad's illegitimate son, he wouldn't need to put on such a production to be acknowledged. With your old man calmly lying in the morgue, he could easily have come to this country and requested a judicial appraisal of paternity. What's he getting at with all this kidnapping and murder? Does he have nothing better to do? Could he get a judicial appraisal just because he wanted to? Are you acting like me and my brother are dead? We'd burn the old man and not give him a single hair." Zhou Haixin sneered. "Wasn't he doing it to get money? For someone from such a humble background, he's pretty quick." Those 3 funds being revealed online is enough to land your company in the thick of it, even if it's false, and investigation will still hurt you deeply. If he was really after your family's money, he wouldn't harm others without benefiting himself like this. "I already said that I'm only a painter. I don't understand you businessmen and your business." Zhou Haixin spread his hands impatiently. Skinny as he was, he tried to squeeze past Fei to open the door and go out. Fei grabbed his wrist as he reached for the door handle. Zhou Haixin gave a start, feeling that Feidu's ice-cold fingers were like a snake, tightly clamped onto his pulse, beating wildly beneath his unmoving appearance. While Feidu was rather of the idle limb, unable to tell grains apart type, he still had enough strength to use against a sesame stalk like Zhou Huaixin. The comparisons of people who do not exercise enough to be a true threat is just hilarious. Like, yeah, Feidu is at this level, but this guy's at this level, so Feidu is very capable of taking him down. Oh no, that's just great. Um, with a light shove, he pressed him against a near cabinet. Zhou Haixin said, "You." Shh. Feidu raised a finger, interrupting him. "Quiet. The police are outside. As soon as that unfortunate chauffeur opens his mouth, I knew it wasn't Yang Bo. You and I both know how these things work. When you buy someone to act as a scapegoat, you don't leave evidence. A few years on, you give him more money than he'd earn in his life, and when he gets out, he'll still have his job. It isn't a death sentence. It's about the same as being sent out on an assignment to an inhospitable location for a few years. No scapegoat is going to give up his master. We don't have any special system to protect implicated witnesses in our country. Even if he gives up his master, he won't necessarily escape criminal responsibility. Never mind sitting in jail for no reason, his family members will be impacted too. This isn't established praxis." Zhou Haixin squeezed out a few words with difficulty. "I don't know about your established practices." "Don't play dumb." Feidu shook his head. "When we just guessed that your brother might be in the truck, the kidnappers immediately abandoned caution and stopped keeping the camera close to hide where they were." "Was that because they thought the police were too stupid? They were afraid we wouldn't find the traitor and suspicion wouldn't fall on Yang Bo?" Zhou Huaixin laughed coldly. "You mean someone framed Yang Bo, kidnapped my big brother, and at the same time got rid of the illegitimate son? I understand. However you look at it, I'm the only one who would benefit. So I'm a suspect now? Then why don't you tell the police?" Feidu loosened the hand holding him and looked at him calmly. "Go on." While Zhou Huaixin's voice was very low, his face had recovered its deranged carelessness. He laughed flippantly at Feidu. "Lakes of wine and forests of meat don't breed any kind of feeling. I don't blame you. If I go to prison because of you, I'll have plenty to boast about when I get out. It's a whole grand game, and I'm a mighty performance artist." Feidu sighed gently. "Gunning," Zhou Huaixin asked, "what are you sighing about? Regretting you haven't slept with me yet?" "Look, he has a fine man waiting for him that you cannot compare to, so I don't think he's regretting anything." Feidu said, "I couldn't stomach you." Naturally. Even in these circumstances, Zhou Haixin still had leisure to be self-satisfied. Your out-of-date aesthetic sensibilities certainly couldn't stomach my type of avant-garde. I couldn't stomach your type of thinking so highly of yourself, playing the fool while being a real idiot. Feidu flatly interrupted him. "Zhou, is your big brother really Zhuo Junmao's own son? How good is your relationship with him?" The smile on Zhou Huaixin's face stiffened at once. His hands tightened on the door of the cabinet behind him. "Strange? Master Fei?" You just said I kidnapped my big brother and framed that son of a killing two birds with one stone. So why have you switched to asking how good our relationship is? Babbling nonsensically like this. Are you swooning at my beauty? Fedu didn't respond to his dried up joke. He straightforwardly said, when the kidnappers issued the first question and you snatched President Hu's phone, his phone was logged into your official website's back end. That's right, amazing. Hu Jin-ye was pretending to be so calm and steady, but actually he was already prepared to expose the matter of the illegitimate son. Zhou Haixin clicked his tongue. Of course I'd tried to preempt him. The more real feeling I displayed, the more I'd avoid suspicion. That's not the kind of thing an innocent person says. When I warned you to be careful about answering the kidnappers, you clearly listened to me. But in the blink of an eye, there you went. Why? Zhou Haixin raised a slender brow. You're asking me? Because you'd seen Hu Jinye's movements, Fedu said almost inaudibly. Your company's management is standard. The official website must have someone specially responsible for it. There must be a fixed procedure for posting any news. At any rate, it wouldn't be President Hu personally looking after it. The first time he personally logged into the back end, it didn't accord with convention. This bit of unconventionality confirmed certain of your guesses. Zhou Huaixin's expression hung on his face like a mask, not moving a muscle. Fedu paused briefly. Your brother wasn't kidnapped at all. Zhou Huaixin's breath congealed. After a good while, he gave a sharp laugh and shrugged as hard as he could, nearly swinging his skinny neck off his shoulders. President Fei, do you mean that all the bustle you and the police did just now was only going along with some play acting? For a moment, the two of them were silent. The screen of Fedu's phone lit up, and the ringtone was about to play. He hung up without even looking. Why would two kidnappers who knew how to use business competition to stir up trouble, who knew how to manufacture public opinion online, turn into turtles without shells as soon as they lost contact with the conglomerate and stopped taking any precautions not to be traced? The Baisha River Valley is large and sparsely populated. After grabbing the hostage on the road from the airport, it makes sense to choose that place to swap vehicles, but why would they continue to linger there? The Baisha River is already within Yan City's jurisdiction. Entering the city from there, they wouldn't be investigated or have their cars checked, and the roadblocks were only put up after you called the police. There was an interval of at least 2 hours between your brother getting into the kidnappers' car and you calling the police. Why didn't the kidnappers drive into the city, find a place with enough privacy and space? Is the person behind the scenes who plotted this kidnapping so poor he rattled? Can't he afford to rent a house? Was the traitor planted for us to catch so that the kidnappers could get away in time, or to notify us to rescue your brother in time? Your brother, faced with a vicious kidnapper, didn't try to threaten him or bribe him. He carefully answered with everything he knew about the funds. Was that because he was afraid the Zhou clan didn't have enough lawsuits on its hands? Ooh. 2 armed kidnappers hold a hostage entirely powerless to resist them. They're driving a truck in the wilderness, and the hostage doesn't manage to die and even gets smoothly rescued by the police. Zhou Haixin, gone pale, made a futile effort to speak. If you must say that, Pedro interrupted him. Of course, the kidnappers contacted the Hengda conglomerate. Hengda took the lead in misleading the police and promoting this thing. The kidnappers themselves didn't understand anything. You could say that the kidnappers chose the Baisha River because they were familiar with the Baisha River. Anyway, the way it looks now, we won't be able to catch the two of them to verify. You could also say that your brother saw that the kidnappers' goal was to ruin the Zhou plan, and he carefully cooperated in order to save his life. And you could say that he didn't die in the end because of luck, his own good fortune. Speaking one syllable at a time, he said, but with so many coincidences all put together, adding in President Hu's suspicious behavior, forgive my limited imagination, Zhou, but this really is the only possibility I can think of. Zhu Haixin's expression fluctuates several times. After a long time, he said, I was wrong, President Fei. Yours is the most impressive imagination. I concede defeat. It is frustrating because he basically just admitted that they can't prove anything. Um, England is playing Netherlands in football. I need to see how badly we are going to lose. Is England playing Netherlands in football? I didn't know they did football. I know they do rugby. Okay, learn something new every day. Okay, where were we? Sorry, but also hi. He put up a hand to stop Feidu's words. Is young Bo all that? According to what you said, Zhao Huaijin kidnapped himself, endured the knife and endured drowning, didn't stint to discredit his own company, all for the sake of framing an illegitimate son? Master Fei, is he crazy? Or are you crazy? Zhou, do you really believe young Bo is your father's illegitimate son? Do you really believe that if there were such an undiscovered talent, your father, for the sake of such immaterial things as his dead wife and his reputation, would endure the humiliation of keeping him by his side without daring to acknowledge him? If he's not an illegitimate son, how could a stupid person like Yang Bo get to his present position? Zhou Huaixin suddenly raised his voice, loaning himself out, shall we say? What bad taste the old man had. I also want to know, said Feidu, whether that paternity report was really identifying young Bo. You don't know, right? Your brother showed it to you. You were saying that under my dad and the venerable Zhang's treacherous noses, he made up an illegitimate son out of whole cloth. Zhu Haixin laughed and shook his head. He put a hand on Feidu's shoulder. Forget it. You're better off saying I kidnapped my big brother. It's very kind of you, but you don't need to exonerate me. I'm not going to give myself up. If the police are clever enough, then they can come and investigate. If you want to report me, then go ahead. I don't care. Gaining promotion and wealth at your dad's death really is one of the three great joys of human life. Having said this, Zhu Haixin shook Feidu off, pulled open the bathroom door, and swaggered out, not looking in the least like a schemer who had just been exposed. He announced with deep self-satisfaction to the police looking all over for him. You want me to cooperate with the investigation, right? Fine. I'll go back to the bureau with you in a bit. What's the rush? Let me take off my makeup first. Goodness, sir. Feidu slowly walked out of the corner of the bathroom, looking thoughtfully at Zhou Haixin's sinuous back. Just then, a hand patted his left shoulder. As soon as Feidu turned his head, the hand grabbed his shoulder, pulling him so he stumbled. Having secret talks alone in the bathroom with a person involved in the case? Lo Wenzhou said, staring fixedly into his eyes. You'd better give me a written explanation. Also, why didn't you pick up when I called you just now? Feidu smiled, avoiding the larger issue. Catching me cheating, Captain Law? Guys, It's not the time to flirt, but also I'm here for it. Um, they do. Lauren draws aside, suddenly reaching out and taking Fedu by the chin, very quietly saying into his ear, "Do you know you're very annoying like this?" You do not casually grab someone by the chin and make them look into your eyes and then say, "You know you're very annoying like this." You don't do that to like someone you're not interested in. I'm sorry. Somewhat astonished, me too, Fedu. Fedu raised his eyebrows. When you're holding a chicken leg and aren't planning on splitting it, don't go around smacking your lips in front of people. It's one of the most basic rules of behavior. Didn't an adult ever teach you? As he spoke, Lowenjo's hand slid down towards Fedu's waist. It seemed that he touched him, but at the same time it seemed that he only gestured, not making contact at all. The word adult was spoken very quietly. A light breath brushed Fedu's ear, seeming to carry a trace of huskiness. It struck Fedu's eardrum, the lingering sound reverberating ceaselessly. Oh my goodness, I'm not ready. I'm not ready. He's very interested. Mm-hmm. So interested, I was not prepared. Come and do some real work if you can. Lowenjo released him. Carelessly fooling around makes you particularly dull. Let's go. Time to get off work. Fedu involuntarily tugged at his own collar. Then, as if nothing had happened, he asked, "If young boy refuses to acknowledge it, I suppose the chauffeur's confession alone can't be taken as evidence." "It can't," said Lo Wenjo. "Our next step is to thoroughly investigate all of the chauffeur's communications and financial circumstances, then go right through Yangbo. We'll get Zhou Haijin to give a statement, draw portraits of the kidnappers, and release wanted notices. Whether we can get to the bottom of this case may even depend on how great our colleagues next door investigating the Zhou plan are. Perhaps we'll be able to, and perhaps it'll come to nothing." Fedor put his hands in his pockets. That doesn't sound like something the person in charge of the main criminal investigation team should say. Then what should I say? I'll absolutely bring all crimes to justice? Lowenjo stopped and waved a hand. I'm not Black Cat Detective. Oh, that's a throwback. That is such a throwback. Oh my goodness. I couldn't back up that kind of boast. Like this case. Perhaps in the end, when you've gotten everything you can from it, you'll find that the way the circumstances stand, you don't have enough evidence to throw anyone in jail for a few years. Isn't that right? Fedu smiled in tacit understanding. Of course, there are still some things that make me pretty angry when I think about them. Anyone touching Fedu besides you? Sorry. Lowenjo's gaze fell on him. If you can tell me something useful, for the moment, I won't look too closely into what you were doing behind closed doors with Zhou Haixin. Mm-hmm. Alright, then I advise you to first keep everyone involved in the country, especially Zheng Kaifeng, said Fedu. Then check on Zhou Haijin and Yang Bo's blood relationships with George and Mao. Lowen Zhou snapped his fingers and quickly walked off. Fedu took out his phone. He hadn't had time to look before. The internet was roiling with waves from the stone Zhou Haijin had dropped. There were sandbanks hidden under the great waves, and countless hands were fishing around for anything they could get. As he read, he sank into thought, staring blankly for a while. Then he made a call. Lowering his voice, he said to the person on the phone, "Investigate Yang Bo for me, especially his family background. The more minute, the better." Oh, goodness. I know we should know the name Dongqian, but it's not ringing a bell right now. Is Dongqian um, Huaixin and Huaijin's mom? No, but they don't. Anyway, okay. Sorry. Dongqian lived in the Waves Bend estate. Oh, sorry. Chapter 17, Macbeth. 11. My brain is scattered. Dongqian lived in the Waves Bend estate. This was a very new residential area. A few years before, all this had still been damp, narrow little alleys. Later, it had been remade into one of the grand city's beneficiaries. Dongqian's family had been moved out and moved back into the bright and clear resettlement house there. Oh, right, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. All the houses constructed in recent years were very advanced, with radiant floor heating, central air conditioning, new model systems. Recently, it felt like rather Western sounding nouns had become the distinguishing mark of new residences. As the new generation of the city's middle class had begun to buy quality of life, they wanted a nice neighborhood, wanted quiet, wanted services, wanted convenience. The old residences had barely signed and the resettlement agreements, finding a place to shelter at the edge of the quality of life, as if they'd also been integrated into the high tide of quality metropolis. Of course, only those who had come to live there knew that this only looked good on the outside. Ooh, okay. There was a thick partition between the commercial housing and the houses where former residents had been settled. The divide was tightly sealed. On one side was bare cement, while on the other was an exquisite man-made landscape separating the similar-looking houses by class. When Xiao Haiyang and his colleagues left Dongqian's house, they found that the place they'd been parking their car had been surrounded by a circle of people. The car came first thing in the morning. An old man walking his dog was saying, "I saw it when I was buying breakfast. I don't know what they've been investigating this long." Don't you know there's a murderer living there? The address they dug up online is that house. A young person with the look of a student held up his phone for the old man to see. The dog walking person, I'm not going to say that, noted his eyes in somewhat uncomprehending awe at the gale force flow of information. While the. What? Hey, are those two policemen? Before Xiao Haiyang could open the car door, he was nearly drowned in the babbling crowd. "Mr. Policeman, I hear that assassin lives there. Did you come because of that?" First Shahayang froze. Then he shook his head repeatedly. "No, don't make wild guesses. Please move out of the way." The young person holding up the phone curiously asked, "Is there really an illegitimate son?" Before the words were out of his mouth, a fashionably dressed lady yanked him from behind. "Stop asking about this sort of useless gossip. If you keep fooling around online, I'll take away your phone. Officer, I'd just like to ask a little question. Did the one who crashed the car die or not? Did you arrest him? Living next door to a murderer, you know." Shah Yang's hand paused in the middle of opening a car door. Then he pretended he hadn't heard, lowering his head and getting into the car without uttering a sound. "Hey, why are you leaving? Is that any way of an answer? This is a question that concerns mass public safety." I think that's like the sad thing of these kinds of situations is like you might be completely innocent and yet society is still gonna brand you in some way. Mm. A man in a parked car nearby grumbled, "I said before we shouldn't buy a house so close to the resettlement quarters. You have no idea who's living next to you." Shah Young didn't wait for his colleague to close the door before stepping on the gas. He left the residential estate's parking lot as if he were being chased. As soon as he drove out of the estate's main gate, a minibus with the logo of a certain news outlet on it met them head on. The colleague was sharp-eyed. He quickly poked Shao Young. "Go by the side streets. Don't invite trouble." Shao Young spun in the steering wheel, turning off into the twisting side streets. Out of the corner of his eye, glimpsing a few people with cameras over their shoulder getting out of the minibus and chasing a few steps after them. Seeing they couldn't catch up, they laid down their arms and took a few photographs of the police car driving away. The colleague looked back nervously, determined that there was no complications, then at last relaxed, saying to Shah Haiyang, "Rumor really does move fast. I'm telling you, Haiyang, times aren't what they were. If you run into this kind of thing while investigating a case, you have to remember to watch your mouth. And if you can't, take a deep breath and run." If there's no official statement, we can't say a single word too much. That's discipline. Otherwise, I think the boss would give you a seeing to. First, Shahayang rather inarticulately nodded. After a while, he abruptly asked, "Can Dong Xiaoqing keep living there?" First, the colleague gave an uncertain "yeah," then came around um, rather indifferently waved a hand. "It'll definitely be unpleasant for a while, but after a time, it'll be alright. Everyone is so busy. Whose memory is that long? Don't worry. In another month or two, no one will remember." Isn't that like an ideal world kind of outlook on things, though? I don't necessarily think that's gonna work that way. Mm. With a heavy heart, Shah Young gave an affirmative. His driving wasn't anywhere near as boisterous as the rest of him. It was even a little overly cautious. He saw a light change from far away and gently braked the car. The old service car slowly came to such a smooth stop that the person inside hardly felt it shake. "But she herself definitely won't forget," Shia Young said suddenly. The colleague looked at him in surprise. "If in the end we still haven't been able to find clear evidence to show whether Qian is a killer or innocent, this business will weigh on her heart forever. At first, when people ask her, suspect her, she'll argue desperately, unwilling to believe under any circumstances. And there goes my camera. Give me a second. Damn it, I really had hoped it would hold off for the entirety of um the live, and it just fell short 10 minutes before. My camera might be giving issues right now. Let's see. Okay, yeah, it's not appearing the way it should. I'm not sure why. Um, but because we only have 10 minutes left, are you guys okay with me just doing voiceover for the last 10 minutes, or would you prefer I try and figure out what is going on with my camera? I just don't want to waste unnecessary time. Mm. Okay, cool. Let's do that then. Okay, let's go back to where we were. Um, she'll argue desperately, unwilling to believe under any circumstances that her father could be an assassin. This business is going to be like a splinter, coming up every now and then, like Schrodinger's box. Not sure if that's the right comparison, but it also sounds like he's speaking from experience. The colleague hadn't expected him to suddenly express so many feelings. Staring, he asked him, Schrödinger? Isn't that a cat? A box with a cat in it. Xiao Hai Yang stared fixedly at the traffic light, his glasses slipping down a little, the frames blocking his eyelids, giving him a rather depressed look. Each day you don't open it is another day you don't know whether the cat is still alive, and the box will forever press on your heart, so that you can't think of anything else. Every day, as soon as it gets dark, you'll go in circles around that box, like a fishbone stuck in the throat. Every day you'll suspect this kind of wound can never heal. Still don't know if I agree with that um, metaphor or analogy, but okay. The average person's everyday conversations were either idle chats or business communications. In the culture of Eastern people, discussing feelings with people you weren't very close with didn't seem so every day. It would give people the awkward feeling of talking intimately to comparative strangers. The colleague hemmed and hawed a while, not knowing how to respond to this rambling speech. In the end, he only gave a dry laugh. But Xiao Haiyang seemed to be immersed in his own world, neither feeling any of his colleagues' awkwardness nor expecting any answer from him. Having said what he was going to say, he closed his mouth and sank into some other place. In the waves bend estate, Dong Xiaoqing sat alone in the living room, holding her phone. Next to her, a local TV station was playing the sensational news about the Zhou clan at regular intervals. From time to time, the name of the responsible driver, the individual Dong, flashed by in an unobtrusive corner. There were 3 cups of leftover cold tea on the coffee table, announcing the recent presence of guests. The person on the phone spoke very gently. It was their human resources manager. Look, Xiaodong, you've really had a lot going on at home lately. Even though it's the busy season now, everyone really feels that you should rest for a while. Take care of yourself, not worry about work. If you have any trouble, you can always tell the company and we can resolve it. We'll definitely do our best to help you, alright? This was a tactful dismissal. Dong Xiaoqing understood it. She didn't want to make an ugly scene, so she did her best to force her voice not to shake. Alright, Manager Wong. Thanks for going to the trouble. Hey, no trouble, no trouble at all. The person on the line relaxed at having successfully dealt with her. On account of Dong Xiaoqing's sensibility, his voice softened even further. There's nothing I can do for you in these circumstances, but I've submitted a report to the boss to request an additional quarterly salary and supplement for you. The unflagging sound of knocking came from outside the door. Miss Dong, are you home? We're at the Yan City Evening News. We'd like to ask you a few questions. Her dad died. Can you not? Can you not? Give it to you all at once. While it might not be much, it's still better than nothing. If you need a letter of recommendation in the future, feel free to come to me. That didn't start off sounding like they were firing her, but now it obviously is exactly that. Miss Dong? Strange. There must be someone in there. I can hear voices. Hello? Is anyone home? Dong Xiaoqing took a difficult breath and held her head. These clamorous noises were like water, powerfully flowing back and forth. They weren't necessarily well intentioned, nor necessarily ill intentioned, but the person caught in their eddies, unable to struggle out, unable to catch a breath, understood how it felt to be drowning. But while drowning, the person couldn't complain about this or that individual drop of water. Then who should they go reason it out with? Since time immemorial, no one had been able to offer an explanation. Dong Xiaoqing didn't know how she managed to finish the phone call with her job. She'd become a mechanical walking corpse. After a long time, she finally came back to herself. The person at the door had finally left. She'd taken out the phone's battery herself. The thrill-seeking news item on the TV had concluded at some point, and the daily variety show had begun to play again. She curled up numbly, vague gaze fixed on the piece of paper under the teacup that had a phone number written on it. The policeman wearing the glasses had left it, telling her to call him at any time if she remembered any clues or had any difficulties. Hypocrite, thought Dong Xiaoqing, her face expressionless. The clamorous doorbell rang yet again. I'm so scared something's gonna happen to her. Dong Xiaoqing gave a start. She felt an indescribable anger and swiftly stood up, snatching the glass off the table, spilling half of the water onto the couch. The person at the door tried knocking, muttering, "No one there," to himself. Then there was a creak, and the express delivery person, as usual, shoved a package into the little compartment in the hall and quickly left. Dong Xiaoqing hastily pressed some paper napkins onto the couch to soak up the water, hesitated a moment, then looked out the peephole to investigate. Determining there was no one outside, she quickly opened the door crack and took the express delivery package inside like a thief. The package wasn't at all heavy. It was tightly wrapped. She remembered she hadn't bought anything, so who would have sent her a package at this time? Dong Xiaoqing suspiciously read through the packing list. Then she froze instantly. It had come from the address of the freight company where Dong Qian had worked when he'd been alive. The sender and the recipient were both Dong Qian. I'm nervous. After Zhou Junmao's cause of death had been thrown into suspicion, in Dong Qian's capacity as suspect, all of his personal possessions at his home and place of work had been searched by the police. Only exempting this package sent in the same city had taken 2 or 3 days to arrive by Chinese expressly slow delivery. I feel like this is shade to a very specific Chinese company that we can't know about. Dong Xiaoqing impatiently tore the packaging open with her bare hands. The first thing to fall out of it was a black and white memorial photograph of a woman. The same photograph was hanging in her living room. It was her mother, who had died when she was a small child, Imagine if Dongqing is the illegitimate child. Dong Xiaoqing, sorry. Um, the same photograph was hanging in her living room. It was her mother, who had died when she was a small child. After that came horrifying pictures of the scene of a car crash and the death certificate that had been issued after the rescue efforts had failed at the hospital. There was a newspaper clipping stuck to the death certificate. The story related to the car crash Dong Xiaoqing's mother had died in. Dong Xiaoqing thought at first that these were relics her father had been storing and was about to ignore them when her gaze inadvertently swept over a few sentences of the old newsprint. It was as though a bucket of cold water had been splashed directly into her face. In an instant she woke from her muddled state. The main character of this news clipping wasn't the woman who had died innocently in the car crash. It was a rather renowned entrepreneur of the time. The entrepreneur had been driving along when he'd suddenly been rear-ended by a truck. His sedan had lost control and gone into the next lane, dragging in a passing van, fermenting a multi-car pile-up. The driver of the sedan and the responsible driver had died on the scene, while Dong Qian and his wife had been riding in the van. They had both been taken to the hospital. The wife had been critically injured and had unfortunately passed away when rescue efforts failed. Dong Xiaoqing impatiently took everything out of the package. Inside there was an unintelligible diagram of vehicle routes, some mimeographed, hand-drawn pictures, a photocopy of an enormous bill for something or other, several close-up photographs of license plates, and a pile of personal information about some strangers, and one of them was Georgian Mao. There was a photograph stuck behind the biographic sketch of Georgian Mao. It was of the Bentley the old man had been riding in at the time of his car crash. Dong Xiaoqing's heart jumped and her hands began to tremble. She saw an envelope under the pile of documents with Xiaoqing crookedly written on it. This was Dong Qian's sloppy, somewhat childish, awkward handwriting. A few days had passed in the blink of an eye since Zhou Huaijin's kidnapping, and not only had the level of enthusiasm not calmed, it had become even more intense. All the photographs and articles concerning Zhou Huaijin participating in the business conference in his youth were turned up, and even the Zhou clan's mysterious other founder, who had disappeared decades ago, was once again brought up. This person's Chinese name was Zhou Yahoo. Gosh, he was pretty good looking. Lang Chao was walking around and around the office. He was part Chinese, part American, with slightly more Chinese heritage, and married an ethnically Chinese woman, a second-generation immigrant from a rich family. He dropped out of a famous school to go into business. Georgian Mao was entirely his footman back then, and don't even mention Zheng Kaifeng. He's just left the country illegally and was a hooligan dodging around here and there. Taran looked up in surprise. Zheng Kaifeng left the country illegally? He ran for it when he was in his teens, said Lang Chao. He spent a few years working for a human smuggler, then somehow hooked up with Georgian Mao and got himself a legal identity. Looking at the miserable state he was in then and comparing it with the way he is now, the ups and downs of human life really are hard to predict. Okay, we actually went over by 6 minutes, but I thought we were gonna be close to a chapter break, but do you guys want me to do like 2 more pages? My voice might be a bit croaky though, so just bear that in mind. why the camera just didn't want to switch on again. Oh, there it is now. Let's see if maybe it'll... come back into existence now. Probably not. Okay, I think I'm gonna end it here just because of all the kind of glitching that seems to be going on with my OBS at the moment. So we shall just continue and finish up the chapter on Tuesday, tomorrow. I will be seeing you guys again tomorrow for the next chapter, but I am considering moving the read-alongs as a whole to either Mondays and Wednesdays or Wednesdays and Fridays, because I tend to kind of run into problems on Tuesdays where we go to have dinner and then I have to scramble to get back. So if you have a preference between whether I should do Wednesdays and Fridays or Wednesdays and Mondays, feel free to leave them in the chat or in the comments. But for now, I am going to be seeing you guys again on Thursday, as in tomorrow. So hope you have a good rest of your day, night, wherever you are, and I'll see you tomorrow. 再见。